So after a long day of hearings here at the Supreme Court on the CBI versus CBI case where CBI Director Alok Verma has challenged the divestment of his powers by the centre and the CVC, the court has finally just deferred the case on to Wednesday, 5th December. Now we saw arguments from Verma's lawyer Fali Nariman setting out in detail why he felt the government action to divest him of his powers was not valid, since it wasn't done by the selection committee which appointed Verma in the first place, which was the only authority which has the power to either transfer him or take any action against him. This is because of a specific provision in the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act, which is the act which governs the CBI, which has separate safeguarded provisions for the CBI director. And one of these is that he can only be transferred if there's previous consent of the same committee which appointed him. Now, this committee, the special one, it has to be the Prime Minister, the CGI, and the leader of the opposition, the leader of the largest opposition party. Now, what we've also seen today after that were other lawyers who are involved in arguing in similar vein to what Verma is saying. We had Dushyant Dave representing Common Cause, which is an NGO which has filed a PIL asking for the orders divesting Verma of his powers and then appointing an interim director to be quashed. We had Indira Jaising representing MK Sinha, who filed that explosive application in the court which had alleged the involvement of senior and the highest levels of public officials in the whole fiasco. We also saw Rajiv Dhawan, who represents AK Bassi, the man who the investigating officer on the Rakesh Asthana FIR, who has of course been transferred to Port Blair. Now, after they finished trying to make these arguments, they said essentially the court only wanted to hear the question of whether or not the government and the CVC had the power to recommend this action of divestment against them. They said no, they didn't. Even under the powers of superintendence, which the CVC has, that's over the CBI, that's only about investigations into crimes of corruption. The centre also has a very limited power of superintendence. However, the government came up. Attorney General KK Venugopal represented the centre. He was trying to argue instead that actually the selection committee doesn't appoint the CBI director. They only recommend their appointment, and therefore this sort of interdict that only they could possibly take any action against Verma, who didn't stand. He also tried to argue that there was no actual transfer by the that there was no transfer here in this case. Now, of course, because transfer is specifically prohibited, he said that this did not amount to an effective transfer, which is what Verma and the other lawyers have been trying to say. Now, there was a bit of confusion towards the end over certain aspects of the CVC Act, and by the end the judges just decided that they will take up the matter again next Wednesday. They for now will only be considering whether or not the removal of Verma's powers, the divesting of his powers, was possible for the government. They will not be looking at the investigation by the CVC and what it found against Verma, for which they've recommended further investigation. But they will see on Wednesday if they need to look into that as well.